Welcome, Amanda, our speaker for tonight. And thank you for participating in the District 3 Toastmasters Leadership Institute program. Have you ever watched a presentation and the speaker is looking for engagement or allows for time at the end and you hear crickets? We have that a lot in Lake Havasu. During this session, you learn how to turn the sound of crickets into conversation. Amanda Cuda has been a Toastmaster since June 2017 after having stage fright in front of an audience of over 200 people. Amanda quickly joined Toastmasters to learn how to ease the stage fright and be a captive presenter, which I believe she will be tonight. During a Toastmasters Impact event, Amanda helped a speaker fill in time at the end of the presentation, stepping up to be more than just a moderator. Amanda joins us all the way from down under, Australia, currently making Arizona her home. Please welcome Amanda Cuda and her speech or presentation on how to be an awesome virtual moderator. Give her a big hand, please.
Thank
Amanda.
you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for my introduction. I'm so excited to be here. Let's get started. So, how did I get asked to become a moderator? To speak about being a moderator? It all happened at the Impact event, as just was mentioned. We had Angel filled in for a speaker that couldn't show up. So Angel quickly put together a presentation, didn't really have time to time it to see how long it went for. And this was an impact event. We had guests showing up at this event, so it needed to be good. And we had a whole bunch of time. I think it was about 25 minutes that we needed to fill in at the end of the presentation. I knew nothing about the topic, but I was quickly Googling some information, trying to ask Angel all these questions, keep the conversation going because people weren't interacting in the chat. So the district saw me do this as a moderator and asked me to present what I did to help everybody else have really engaging presentations and be able to get that chat going and really to get rid of the crickets. We want the conversation. So here's my presentation I've put together. Feel free to interact in the chat, ask your questions. If you need to raise your hand, please do so. Let's keep this as interactive as we possibly can. All right, so let's get started. Yes, I like to say that I am Australian because most of the time when I talk here in the US, people spend the whole entire time trying to guess my accent and don't listen to a thing I say. So let's just get that straight out of the park. I'm not British and I'm not from New Zealand. They're the two common things I usually get. So what we're going to cover tonight, we're going to cover what is a moderator, the many hats you'll wear, what to do. So there is a before, during, and after preparation, and I want to teach you how to do it awesomely. So let's get going. First, what is a moderator? I personally think a moderator can be seen as a tour guide. Who here has been on a really awesome tour with a really engaging tour guide who not only shows you different places, but then takes you into a particular store and introduces you to somebody? So there's many things that are going on. You want to know when the tour starts, when the tour ends, when you can go to the bathroom. And that's what I feel like a moderator is. You're the tour guide of the event. Google defines it as someone who presides over a meeting, forum, or debate. So you can be referred to as many things. You can be referred to as the MC, a Toastmaster, a Zoom master, a contest chair, a meet and greet host, or just a plain host or a moderator. And then depends on the type of event as well. I listed some of our Toastmaster events so you can get a gauge of when you might be asked to be a moderator. You don't have to be scared to say yes anymore. So as you can see, our TLI event now, we have moderators for the sessions. We have Toastmaster contests coming up, and Toastmaster Impact event sessions coming up in January that DJ mentioned. And each platform actually has their own requirements, and each event will have their own requirements. So I'm going to talk about doing the tech thing, and if people can mute themselves, that would be great. Thank you. Unmute if you'd like to talk. And so different requirements, and you might not have to do everything, but you might have to do everything I'm talking about. So just check with the organizer what your role is. I have a cheat sheet for you at the end of this. And yes, the good old question. Thank you, Karen. Let's get that knocked out of the way, because that's the other thing everyone spends the whole entire presentation wondering is, how did I make myself appear at the bottom of the screen? There is, when you go to share the screen, there is a little, there's 3 tabs at the top. There is a basic, advanced, and files. If you click on the middle one, advanced, it will give you the first option should be PowerPoint as a virtual background. So when you do that, click on that, it'll bring up your presentation and you on the screen. Pretty cool. So if you don't know how to do that, you just learned a new skill tonight. Okay, let's keep going. Tonight, we're going to focus on being a moderator for Toastmasters event. Of course, we're here at Toastmasters, but you can take this and you can use this for your business events, for any other sort of your home club meetings, whatever it is that you're doing. So just know that this skill can be translated, transferred to many other types of events as well. It is very cool, isn't it? Yeah, I love having this. This was Shin. Shin taught me this really cool skill. So she's really good if you need some Zoom tech tips. Okay, so anything can happen at a live event. You need to come prepared. There are different platforms. Ensure you have the right kind of access. We're going to get into this a little bit more. Be familiar with the platform you're using and really just be prepared. So before an event starts, talk to the speaker. So many times the moderators and the speakers do not talk to each other, and then they show up at the event and they're quickly trying to scramble. What are you doing? What am I doing? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? It would be a quick 10-minute phone call that you could just touch base with them before the event and get all this information that you want to know. I really don't like wordy PowerPoints, but I just felt like I needed to make this one a little bit wordy so you can take screenshots, have all the information. But like I said, I'm going to share a cheat sheet at the end. So this is the things you want to talk to the speaker about. Remember, you're the support person. You're going to be the person there to help them through this. Ask them the questions. Is there going to be opening music to pump everyone up? Is there going to be an open video they want to play? So if you notice at the start of our TLI session, there was a slideshow and some music going on. I did actually send, I hope you noticed there was a music update in between the sessions to something a bit more upbeat. I didn't like the initial music that was played at the start of TLI. I thought that's already going to put me to sleep and we need to wake everybody up for a fun evening. So make sure you choose happy music. If your video you're playing is relevant, or is there going to be video clips? Are they sharing a PowerPoint? How tech savvy is your speaker? I know so many speakers I have spoken to at times, and that's one of the first things they say to me. So they have no idea what they're doing technology-wise. So offer them some reassurance that you're going to be able to help them and guide them. Ask them if they have a call to action at the end. And that might plant a seed, because sometimes presenters do not have a call to action. And I think having a call to action is actually something that's super important to have. So plant that seed, make sure they have some sort of call to action. And I'm going to go into these in more detail soon. Find out what their topic is about, get their bio and introduction, ask them how to pronounce their name, and find out how nervous they are. Literally just by having that little bit of a conversation will help calm a speaker down and really just help with their nerves and be able to be a good presenter. Now, you want to really talk to them about the Q&A time at the end. Are they going to want questions during the presentation, or do they want to hold questions until the end? There is no right or wrong answer for this. Every speaker is different. I know there are some speakers that do not want you to post in the chat while they're talking. They just hate it. It's distracting for them. For me, I love it. I love the engagement. Ask me questions. Let's make it conversational. So there are different ways you can do that. You actually post in the chat right now. Give me a 1 if you like interaction during your presentation, or 2 if you prefer questions at the end. Let's see what kind of crowd we have here tonight. Post in the chat, Steve. See, we have a mixed bag already. You can see that. So it's really important just to find out what the speaker is most comfortable with. The other thing you can do, and depending on how the meeting is set up, this is a Zoom meeting. If it was a webinar, I wouldn't be able to see all your beautiful faces. But maybe you can also talk to them about whether or not they want the audience members' video and microphone on during or after as well. Now, that comes with a warning. There are delays when that usually happens. So how much time do you have for Q&A? And then also you have to talk to them about how you want to keep the Q&A moving along, because sometimes the speaker gets really fixated on a question that they're answering, that they'll take up the whole 10 minutes of Q&A answering that one question, and nobody else has an opportunity to answer a question. So ask them how you're going to signal them. Are you going to interrupt them? Are you going to get them to wrap it up? Find out what will work for the speaker. This is your time to prepare with the speaker prior to the event. After you get off the call with the speaker, you are now an investigative journalist. So you want to find out about the speaker and the topic. This is the key to turning the sound of crickets into conversation. Who has ever Googled a speaker before they've watched their presentation? Put a 3 in the chat for me. Or who, thank you, Prince. All right, so we've got some people saying yes. I could have just said put a yes in the chat. That would have worked as well. The other thing you could do is also just Google the topic as well. Find out a little bit of information about what they're going to be talking about. For me, I actually find that really helpful. It helps me actually just pay more attention to the speaker. It helps my active listening skills just by having a little bit of foundation about what topic is they're going to be speaking about. And then you want to come with ideas. So if there are crickets during their allotted Q&A section at the end, you have some pre-prepared ideas. So the idea is to be prepared. I have been an event manager for quite a long time, not current my main focus, but I always get pulled into people's events like Toastmasters to help them. And I've always want to be prepared when it comes to an event of any kind, whether I'm the event organizer, whether or not I am the speaker. Now, I'm going to say, Prince, your sports update is distracting to a speaker right now. Because I'm like, what's going on with the game? See that? And make sure if you are posting things in the chat, guys, that it is relevant to the speaker, because that can throw a speaker way off their game on what they're talking about, because they're expecting someone to ask a question about them. So let's keep the subject on point. Okay, now we have different platforms. As you know, with our Toastmasters District 3, we like to use Zoom for our TLI events. We're going to be using Zoom for the upcoming virtual contest next year. But our impact event was on Hopin. So that was a completely new platform I had not used before. Thankfully, when it was set up that moderators could have time, I think it was a day or two before the event, that we actually got to go in and play with the platform and just get familiar with it. Again, if you are working with people who have never moderated before, that is a really good thing to do. You want them to be as comfortable with the platform as well. And there are other platforms that the clubs are using right now. There's Microsoft Teams, there's Google Meet, there's probably other platforms. These are the 4 that I'm most familiar with. And then you want to check with the organizer the co-host privileges. So there is actually on my checklist a list that you will talk to the organizer about. You want to know what privileges you do have. You want to know, are you going to be a co-host? Are you going to be the host? Generally, most of the time, there will be a main organizer who will be the host, which I believe for this particular event would have been Shin. And then everybody else gets co-hosting privileges. So I got co-hosting privileges, so I can hit record, I can show my PowerPoint. So just make sure that the organizer has thought about also who needs co-host privileges as well. Sometimes you need to prompt other people because you really are becoming the tech pro right now. Here are your basic tech checks. You want to make sure you have the latest software. I know so many times people have come to me and go, Amanda, how do you do this cool little image on the bottom of Zoom? And and they're like, no, we can't see it. It's not there. And they just haven't updated their software. So make sure that the software you're using, example, Zoom, is updated. Now, I'm not going to teach you how to do that. You can Google how to do that. We want to keep this going. You want to make sure you have the latest browser update. Now, I say that for our TLI moderators because there has been replays shared that have videos that have been uploaded to YouTube. And you just want to make sure that your browser is running seamlessly. So make sure you do a browser update. If you didn't know, yes, that is a thing. And then also make sure your computer software is updated as well. The last thing that you want is during a presentation is you're getting these message pop-ups to say, update your Windows now, and we're about to reset your computer. You do not want your computer reset, obviously, while you're on an event. So these are just simple things you can do. Also, turn off all your notifications. If you're constantly getting pop-ups that are coming up, turn them off, get rid of them. We don't want them distracting you from your event. Register for a ticket. So even though I'm a speaker tonight, I'm still here getting credit for my club as my role of VP of PR. So I needed to make sure I registered for a ticket. Have all the login links ahead of time. Don't show up at the time we logged in at 5 p.m. as moderators and presenters. Make sure you have those links at least by 4 p.m. Don't wait until 5 p.m. Try and get them the day before. And is there a script to follow as well? That's another good question for the organizer. As you can tell, there should be scripts for people to read out. So let's talk about during the event now. What we're going to cover is once the room's open, and I think these are really different sections. So that's why I've kind of separated it all. So once the room opens, the opening welcoming, introduce the speaker, moderating the chat, the question and answer time, and the closing. So once the room is open, so important, you do become the meet and greet host for people. There is nothing worse, I find, than going into a room and you're just hearing those crickets. No one knows what they're doing. Is the speaker here? Who's the host? What's going on? Bugger ballot for the crickets. Yeah, thanks, Steve. You can tell I have a thing about crickets, right? So make sure that you turn on your video, your audio's here, and greet people. I like to say, rename yourself. As you can see, I rename myself to say I'm the speaker. So you're clearly new. You might have went, oh, I'm going to attend that session, but you don't know who Amanda Cuter is. So I wanted to make sure that when you logged in, you knew I was the speaker, why I'm so engaging with everybody. I always like to welcome people. Hopefully, most of the time people will turn on their camera, but when it's 9 o'clock at night, that can be a little bit of a big ask for people. But acknowledge them, say their name, ask them questions. What's everyone doing? I was asking tonight, who's in their pajamas? Because that was a relevant question for this late time of night. Make everyone feel like they're your long lost friend, that you haven't seen them in forever. Really just spend that time making everyone feel good. Post the agenda in the chat if you need to, or have a list of questions. Maybe you want to get a table topic session going while waiting. There is always a waiting time. We know this. And in a virtual environment, you want to stop Prince from watching the football. So you want to be able to ask questions and get people engaged and know that they're paying attention and they're getting exciting for the speaker about to start. Once we have the opening, so we've logged in, we're greeting people, we're opening the meeting officially or the session, you now become that MC host. So excite the audience, get them excited. What are they wanting to learn? What's going on? You should also have a list of housekeeping to go through. We didn't do that tonight, but they were doing that prior to the breakout sessions. So whether or not you need to tell people to save the questions to the end, whether they can interact with the presenter. I think I'm repeating some things on my slide. Whether or not people to have their video on or off, or the audio muted. And you should get that comprehensive list. And then you want to start. So once you get you're welcome, like, hi everybody, welcome to an amazing night of how to moderate a speaker. Here is the housekeeping, keep your videos on, your audio muted, and interact with the speaker, kind of bit like that. And now we're going to introduce our speaker. Here is Amanda all the way from Australia. So you really want to bring the energy when you're doing this. So much. You really do not want to be monotone because you're already setting the speaker up for a really low engagement. So be excited, everybody. Attach any files or post any links in the chat that you need to. And then we've got during the presentation, you become an audience member at this time, as well as all the many other hats you're going to wear. So you're going to resolve any tech questions. Depending on the event, you might have a dedicated tech person and you might just have to moderate. So again, find out from the event organizer, are you going to be moderating and doing tech or just moderating? Find out. And you'll generally be moderating the chat. You're going to want to practice your listening skills. I want people to start showing up with their critical thinking cap on. So many times people just come and they just listen. They don't challenge any information that they've heard or presented. And I like it when people actually challenge me on something. That means I get to grow. So be aware of that. Get your critical thinking cap on. What other information could they have shared with you? Because you did a bit of research beforehand. So take notes during the presentation. And I want you to start, if you're handwriting, if you're typing, highlight it. But what you enjoyed most, what the speaker was talking about, and what you would love to hear more about. Something that got you really excited. And we're going to use that soon, that information. So moderating the chat, this is when you become the super engager. Let's see, we have a question. What is my source of being challenged? Anything, Raoul, you can tell me that that's not how a moderator should moderate. I'm okay with anything you want to tell me. You really are challenging me. Okay, so become a super engager in the chat. Noting questions. So you just want to take a note of any questions that people are asking, especially if the presenter has said, yep, you can post your questions in the chat as I talk, but we're going to answer them at the end. So you want to be noting those questions at that time. Again, remember to resolve any tech questions that are coming up. Are you responsible for attaching files, an agenda? Are they handouts? And post links. This is one of the things that the district saw me do really well during contest season at the start of this year, is they would be these announcements and we'd have these PowerPoints that would show the links on where to get the information from. But A PowerPoint isn't clickable. Me watching the PowerPoint, I can't go and click on that. So I was posting those links in the chat so the audience members could just click on the link, open it up in your new tab, come back to Zoom, and then they had the links open to refer to later. So I highlighted, and it was the only thing that I highlighted, made in bold for this presentation, was about posting links. Because if you just do that one skill, you're going to be a better moderator than most people. So posting links in the chat is a really good thing to do. Participate in the chat. Like I said, you become the super engager. Comment, talk to people, make jokes about the bug repellent for the crickets in the chat right now, whatever it is. So just keep that engagement going. Don't post your questions in the chat though. You're going to keep them up your sleeve. So yes, we want people, and yes, I'm telling you to be an audience member, but we want to keep your questions for yourself for now. And like I said, sometimes the speaker doesn't want the chat active. So sometimes you can turn the chat off. I think it needs to be done prior to the Zoom meeting being open. Let me check right now. Yes. You need to have that setting, I believe, switched off. Okay, thank you, Prince, for that clarification. So when you're setting up the Zoom link, that will be something you can do. Actually, I think it might even be in the Zoom settings. Do you remember, Prince, where we find that? And you're free to unmute yourself as well if it's quicker than typing.
It actually is in the settings, but it's on the website, not on the Zoom client.
Thank you. Yes, I'm glad you did that clarification. Yeah, because a lot of people will go to the Zoom client, and that means the application that you have, not in your web browser. So when you log into Zoom in your web browser, in the settings there is where you update it. And if you cannot turn the chat off and they would like you to do that, because remember, this is a virtual event and people are going to come and wander in whenever they feel like it after they've grabbed their coffee and snacks or gone to the restroom, you can actually just post in the chat. Please hold off from using the chat until the Q&A section at the end. It's nice, it's simple, it's polite. You don't need to go into a whole big spiel about it, just something short and sweet. But most presenters will ask for engagement, but we did a poll, you can scroll back and look at the ones and twos of what speakers like the engagement or not. And then the end of the presentation. This is going to be your time to shine as the moderator. Stay excited, because sometimes the speaker is like, oh, I'm done. And their energy can actually just drop, but you want to bring that energy back and you want to get that speaker excited again, that you were just excited to hear what they were talking about. So keep the energy up and going. Because when we get to the Q&A time, this is the time that the moderator can really help make or break a speaker. You want to lead the conversation. This is how I'm going to suggest, this is how I like to do it. But again, talk to your speaker. And I think it's really great if you can lead the conversation. I like to be able to read out the questions and then have that conversation with the speaker. Ask them for further clarification on things if you can. If there is crickets and we need to fill in some space, but lead that conversation. Now, sometimes, like I said, the speaker will read the questions as you go along, or they'll read it at the end. But if they're reading it and leaving all the questions till the end, ask them if you can have that conversation going. And so the speaker can be surprised about the question and answer it on the spot. If the audience doesn't have any questions, this is when you're going to have your questions ready. And this is going to be the time where you're going to have that conversation going with the speaker. Monitor the time. We are Toastmasters. We do like to start and finish on time. And try and keep the questions answered. I like to do it a table topic style, maybe 1 to 2 minutes. Don't want to spend 5 minutes on answering one question and then no other questions get answered. So monitor the time, keep it going, keep it moving as much as possible. I need a drink. One moment. Okay. And now it's time to wrap up the event. You are the excited closer. We're keeping that energy high, remember? And you can literally start, instead of calling for the next question, say it is time to wrap up. We're running out of time. Thank the speaker. And in 20 seconds, recall the thing you enjoyed most about the presentation. So we can say, I really enjoyed hearing about the Zoom tech questions. Thank you so much. So thank the speaker, thank the audience. The audience gave up their time as well to be here. Thank them for that, acknowledge them. And then this is where you really want to emphasize the call to action. You know, are you following the speaker on social media? Give all their links. Again, they might end with their links on the PowerPoint, but post their links in the chat, make it clickable. Are there any promotions? Are they products, events, books they're selling? You know, that might be outside of a Toastmasters event. I wanted to put that in there because it's really important. I have seen many speakers who not promote themselves. They just gave up their time. They put together a presentation and then they don't give a call to action. And if they don't have one, create one for them. You've listened, you've had your critical thinking cap on, you've had your active listening skills happening, create an offer, make them have a call to action. And then always thank the speaker again, and then thank the audience again. Now, if you are in a multi-room event like we are here tonight at TLI, you need to let the audience know what to do next. You are their guide. You are their tour guide. So they need to know what's up next and the times. Remind them, like we say, this is a virtual event. People are coming on and off all the time. Remind them, up next, we have this happening. If breaks are known when, a lot of people don't actually just want to leave a presentation, they might miss something. So make sure that you let them know when breaks again and where can they find the agenda. So hopefully there should be an agenda put together. After the event, I always think it's so important to touch base with the speaker. We love evaluations as Toastmasters. So how did they feel the session went? It's great because sometimes the speaker doesn't really get to debrief with the person. You know, for me tonight, I'm going to come off this Toastmaster event and the person I have to debrief with is my husband. My husband is not a Toastmaster. He's very good at talking to me about things, but he's not here watching me. He doesn't know what I'm doing. I invited him to watch me. He wasn't interested. I wasn't offended. It's okay. And you know, so talk to that speaker, have that point of person that you were there, you were paying attention the whole entire time, you were their support person, allow them the opportunity to debrief with you. You know, it doesn't have to be tonight. I don't want to debrief with anyone tonight at 10 o'clock. I'm going to go have a whiskey and go wind down from my 3 energy drinks and calm myself down so I can get to sleep tonight. So call the speaker up tomorrow and the next day and ask them how they felt about the session and ask them if they have any feedback for you. Could have you done anything better as the moderator? Did you forget to do something? Did they ask you and you forgot? Or did they think during the presentation, oh, it would have been awesome if we played some music or something like that? So this gives you both an opportunity to grow. And ask them if they do want any feedback as well. So you're asking them about how the session went, but sometimes you can give the speaker an evaluation and you can say, you know, it would have been great if this would have happened. So let's not leave out the importance of evaluation at the end. Now practice. You guys are going to practice this. Not now, it's too late. I'm too tired. We don't have the time for it. But practice this as an audience member. When I put this together, I didn't know I was going to be in the last session. I was hoping I was going to be in the second session. I didn't communicate that very well to my organizer, but I want you all to practice. This isn't going to be the first training you're going to be attending. Maybe maybe for this year, the last training. But when you attend a training session next time, or you become an audience, a moderator, but you can actually just practice this as an audience member. Start taking these notes down while you're listening to presentations. Think about, if you were a moderator, how would you do that? What would you do differently? So start thinking about that. Because here is my call to action for you all tonight. There are a lot of contests coming up next year, and we need a lot of judges, a lot of functionaries, and a lot of volunteers. All contests from area and above are going to be virtual, and we need your help, indeed. And when my moderator is doing her job properly, that link that I've now displayed will be posted in the chat. So you're not trying to write it down or try and Google it off the side and be flicking between the screens, but the link will just automatically be posted into the chat. There we go. Thank you, Lisa. They didn't know I was going to do this to them tonight. I was testing their active listening skills and see how they were going to practice. And when you can be a moderator, this really becomes your best impromptu table topics practice that you can do, because we are a live event. We never know how this is going to go. So here are my details. Here's my email address. If you want to talk to me further about this outside of this event, if you wake up tomorrow with a question that didn't get answered tonight, please reach out to me. We can set up a call if need be. Most questions can be answered via email. But I really hope that you guys have gotten something out of this session tonight, and that you know how to be a really awesome, engaging speaker. I did also put together a checklist, and that link should be popping up very soon. There is a checklist that I put together that you guys are welcome to download and print out, save, whatever you want to do for it. So when you do become a moderator, I've listed out all the steps, and it's a live document too. So if people are asking me questions tonight that I don't actually have on the document, it's a live document, so I can go up and edit it at any time and make sure everyone's questions or list items are on the checklist. So that is all for my presentation tonight. I'm going to hit the stop sharing button and open this up for some Q&A.
Thank you very much for that presentation, Amanda. You are actually giving me a hands-on experience here, because this is my first time to moderate this kind of event. However, I would like to tell you that I was a good student while you were giving your presentation. It was really apt and timely for me to learn, and for the rest of the moderators for next week. And you were asking for a call to action. I think I will start my call to action before asking the audience to ask their questions. For those who want to be moderators, Lisa needs you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our floor is on you. I am giving you the privilege to ask Amanda some questions. If you have questions to her, please. We have about 20 minutes to go. You can write your questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand. Yes, Prince, I think you're the first person I've seen raising your hand.
I just wanted to bring up one quick point. When you use that feature that Amanda used, make sure that you don't have any transitions or timings or anything like that, because what will happen is it will strip it. It will turn into a static presentation.
Okay, I would like more information about what you mean by that, Prince.
Well, point blank, if you have a really jazzy presentation with all sorts of transitions, all sorts of different things, when you go in to use PowerPoint as a virtual background, it's going to strip the transitions. It's going to turn your presentation into a static presentation, just like you showed this evening.
I know what you mean, Prince. Yeah, I'm going to show you guys in case you don't understand what Prince is talking about. Sorry, it took me a second, and I do know what you're talking about right now, because this is what I spent some time doing this afternoon. I tried to make my presentation really jazzy where I had different things moving. This is what you're talking about, right, Prince? How I'm clicking on each point, because that's what I wanted to do. And then when I jumped on and tested this out just beforehand, it does strip all that out and it is static. Yes, sorry, I do know what you're talking about right now. Thank you for mentioning that. Don't waste your time doing the animations on PowerPoint is what Prince is trying to tell you.
Yes, indeed.
That took me a lot of time to make it animated, and I was a little bit disappointed when I found out that it couldn't be animated. And I do like the animation, but at the same time, I do like having my head a little bit bigger outside of a box.
And also you can relocate the position of your head on that virtual background.
Yeah, let's show people. We've got the time.
Could you repeat how you did that again?
Yes, let's do that. Okay, so I've got my share. So when you click on share screen, which you probably can't see right now because you're not a co-host. If you're not a co-host, so just take notes for this. You're going to click on share screen, and at the top, there are 3 tabs. There's a basic, advanced, and files. It's the advanced tab that you want to click on.
Okay.
And it should be the first option, PowerPoint as a virtual background.
Okay.
When you click on that, it's going to bring up your files. So a lot of people, if you're sharing your screen normally without having it as a virtual background, you would have the PowerPoint already open prior. But when you do it this way, it's going to ask you to choose it from a file. Remember where you've saved your PowerPoint is the key to this. And then you will show up. And what you can't see for me right now, but a little box comes up and I can move myself wherever I want. So the other thing you want to note, as you can see, I've made sure that the text doesn't go behind my head. Because I have seen presentations, Prince is nodding his head, he has seen this as well, where people will do all these fancy presentations, and then you're either having to move yourself during the whole presentation, or you're just cutting off words. So really be diligent about making sure that nothing is going to be blocking your head. So I always just like to position myself down the bottom. Right, doesn't really matter. You can do it at the top. Wherever you want to position yourself, just make sure that none of your wording is going, or none of your images, your wording, whatever it is that you're doing your PowerPoint with is going to be cut off. Yeah, thank you, Prince. I really appreciate you mentioning that.
Not a problem.
Now, to piggyback on that for my clarification, Amanda, is that also if you're using Microsoft PowerPoint versus something else that looks like Microsoft PowerPoint?
Yes, it will be any of the programs.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Prince, that would be right?
I would think so, because I know Canva has the capability to create presentations as well.
True, but LibreOffice has a PowerPoint-ish kind of presentation. It will not work in Zoom. I've already tried that and had a large conversation with them about it and said they might want to refresh their stuff.
Google has theirs too.
That's true too. I like Google. It's actually not bad.
Yeah, especially when you're collaborating. If you're collaborating with people, use a Google Slides is what they call it. It's in the Google Drive. It's really great to be able to live edit and collaborate on a presentation if it's a dual presentation you're giving.
And Google Slides can import a PowerPoint.
Yes, it can import, and then you can download it as a PowerPoint too.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, very versatile.
May I see a copy of your first slide that you placed there with your name and at the first beginning?
Yeah, absolutely.
I need to steal a copy of that page. That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, if anybody wants a copy of this presentation, feel free to email me. I'm happy to send it to you. And also the templates. This was a Toastmaster PowerPoint template that you can actually just download from Toastmasters International as well. There's a blue one, and then there's our burgundy one as well. I like the blue personally. So there are some options.
Thank you. That was really very informative, and thanks for your info, Prince and Lisa. I would like to know from the other attendees if you have some questions, because for me, as a moderator, after listening to Amanda, I thought I really failed it. Anyway, if you are like me, who is not tech savvy, probably can ask Amanda your question right now. Anybody, just speak up or raise your hand. Martha, you're unmuted. You wanna say something?
Hold on.
While you're thinking, Martha, Steve, did you have a question? Steve Bro?
I do. Amanda, have you ever had a situation where you've got a panel discussion going on and one person monopolizes the time, takes more than their share, and you feel like there's something you need to do, but how do you redistribute that when someone's claiming a lot more time than they should be taking?
That is a really awesome and delicate situation. Thank you for the question, because we never want to cut people off. The speaker will think that you're being a bit rude or something like that will happen. Again, this is where I really love the preparation. If you're doing a panelist, moderating for a panelist, try and get those speakers together beforehand and tell them that we do want to keep the responses short. So I would try and first mitigate that prior to the event. If that can't be done, let's say, Steve, you're just talking, and I'm like, I need more questions. I need to get this moving. Other people waiting. I would really try and be really on it for that sweet spot to go, Steve, is it okay? You can be like, Steve, is it okay? We're just gonna move it along. Can we wrap up the answer? If they're mid, they do have some valid points, but you really do want to try and just interrupt them at the best appropriate time to let them know that we want to either move on to the next question or move on to the next speaker, whatever it is. The other thing I actually have done is private message them. So if we're on Zoom, and they will actually see that as well. And I will private message them going, we need to keep moving. Can you wrap this up? Whatever it is. So if I will probably try and private message them first. Well, first thing, let's try and get the speakers together before the event. 2, let's private message them if they're taking up all the time. Or 3, try and find that sweet spot to interrupt them to keep the conversation moving.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We have to sustain the energy of our speaker because I know she has spoken for an hour. Any other interesting question that we'll learn, the answers we'll learn from Amanda?
Hi, can I speak up?
Yeah, sure, Angelica.
Yes, I had a question. If you have, let's just, even if it's an hour meeting or 2, whatever, if you have somebody that you can count on to moderate for you, if you have a group of 40 or 60 people, would you want to appoint your own moderator if you know that it's a very quiet crowd anyway? Is that something you'd recommend? You wouldn't recommend? If it's a particular meeting, or is this strictly for presentation type? I'm just wondering if you'd recommend a moderator for that type of thing.
Yeah, that's a great question, Angelica. I love a moderator at any time. At any time, whether it's a Toastmaster meeting, a business meeting, a presentation, always to have somebody there as your backup, as your eyes and ears, especially if you're a presenter. I always want a moderator. Even when I do my own business presentations, I try and see who out of my team I can get to come on to interact. You also bring that energy, interact in the chat, because a lot of times people will not interact in the chat unless somebody else is. So having that, and if I can appoint the moderator and somebody I know who I work really well with, I will suggest if I can appoint somebody as well. Toastmasters, it can be a little bit difficult sometimes at TLI. You know, I was emailing Lisa today going, Lisa, who's my moderator? Like, what's going on? Just because I just want to know. I just want to be able to have that rapport with the person prior. Where possible, you know, I was sending an email during TLI going, okay, here's all the links I want posted in the chat. This is, you know, so they know what I want done as a speaker. So definitely at any time you can have a moderator, whether it's 3 people, whether it's 24 people like we have on tonight, 300 people. 300 people, you want multiple moderators. I think when we get over a certain number, try and have multiple people and dedicate them for specific things. Dedicate one person, you're looking out for the tech questions. Another person, you're going to be posting the links as the speaker's talking about them. Another person's going to be answering general questions. So a bigger event, you want more moderators. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
Amanda, I would like to share my thoughts at this point. We only have 8 minutes left, and I know there are other questions from the group. But my problem as a moderator is, or even in the Toastmasters Club meeting as a Toastmaster, the Waterloo is if the speaker doesn't give his or her information in advance. Like 1 minute you're supposed to speak and somebody gets your info or bio. It's difficult. That's why I have to talk to you supposedly and all those, things in order to know you better, pronounce your name correctly. But I haven't talked to you. I'm sorry. But this really happens even in a normal Toastmasters Club meeting. So how are you going to remedy that so that the speaker will be egged or encouraged to submit the bio and so the moderator can speak with the speaker?
Yeah, I love that question because that does happen. I found that happen a lot in my original club back in Australia when I joined. The speakers would never give a bio, ever. We'd never give, it was like trying to pull blood out of a stone. It just didn't happen. So when I was a Toastmaster at those meetings, I would kind of wing it. Hopefully I would know something about the speaker or remember something from a past speech. And I would draw on that information. With being in a virtual environment, because obviously that was done in person back a few years ago. Now we're in a virtual environment. One of the things you can do is you can try, so there's several things you can try and attempt to do. One is try and send them a private message saying, hi, I'm your moderator for your session. Can you give me your bio? So one, try and private message them and ask them for that bio if you can. If you can't, reach out to the organizer and ask them, did you get a bio? I haven't received it and I'm about to introduce the speaker. I've got nothing to talk to them about. Or 3, Google them. I think most of the time, if you're finding a speaker, you're going to find some sort of information about them. So if you were to Google me, you would actually find my website would come up, probably my Facebook, probably my Instagram, and then just draw on that information. if you can, and hopefully it's relevant to the speaker. I know here at Toastmasters, we're not here to promote what we do really outside of Toastmasters, but it might give you something. You could say, here is Amanda. She is a global entrepreneur, lives in Chandler, Arizona, and notice she is an Aussie, because you will see that on your Facebook pages publicly, at least those 3 bits of information. So yes, you won't be able to give a really good intro bio that we would like to be able to have for somebody, but it's going to give you some piece of information.
We only have one more question to Amanda, because we are going to fill out our evaluation form. So who would like to ask Amanda the last question?
Yeah, my name is
Anybody?
Ibrahim. I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Ibrahim.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Amanda, I want to say thank you. It's a great presentation. You did a great job. So the question is, earlier you mentioned whenever you have a speaker, you tend to talk to them the day before, maybe to try to understand what their style, what they're going to be talking about, if there's a call of action and all those things. Do you ever feel offended if that person is not engaging, or they're not even interested in talking to you, or they're not setting an expectation of what you're hoping to achieve? Do you feel offended? They're just sort of not engaging, or you just see it as a job you need to tackle and get as much information to get ready for the meeting? Because I'm thinking I see it as a show. If you guys can get along and have really a good pre-meeting, it is probably going to translate to the day of the meeting. Is going to be great. But if the person is not engaging, do you feel offended, or how do you feel about all that?
Yeah, and that will happen from time to time, where people just, they're busy, maybe something's happened, they don't know to contact the speaker. This isn't really a practice that we teach at Toastmasters. I really wanted to bring that forward tonight to actually help us. Now, it was also my fault, because I didn't get my bio to Lisa until about 4 o'clock this afternoon, I think it was, because I was still working on things and I've had a lot going on in my life. So we don't always get to talk to the person the day before or beforehand, but maybe if you can have a little bit of a private conversation in the chat beforehand as well, that would be beneficial. I'm not offended. I have done enough presentations right now to just go with the flow. And I think one of the and this comes from being an event manager as well. Whatever's going to happen on the day is just going to happen. And as long as you give your presentation as you wanted to give it, what happens before and after, it's going to be the thing. Maybe you could also come up with some questions as well for the moderator. If you weren't able to contact them beforehand and you were worried about crickets at the end, you could also just provide a list of questions and go, here's some questions to talk to me about afterwards, if nobody is going to interact and engage. So again, just be prepared as much as you can.
Okay.
It takes a lot to offend me though, personally, but great, I love the question. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, Amanda. I hope I did not offend you. It was just my feeling like it was my inadequacy, I think, with not reaching you. But it's really a general question, because this happens in any meeting, in most Toastmasters Club meeting. I mean, it is all right, because if you have been in the club for several months or many years, you know the person, then you can wing it, right? But with you, I cannot. But anyway, that was really wonderful, and I did not intend to offend you. So thank you very much. And that actually concludes our presentation for tonight. We would like to thank Amanda for that wonderful session. Amanda, you can expect a call from me. I'll call you for some information.
Thank you, everybody, for being here.